So Borderlands 3 has been recently announced for the Nintendo Switch, and it is coming out in early October. I believe it's coming out on October 6th, and I gotta say, I'm pretty surprised that Nintendo is gonna be trying to get Borderlands 3 on the Nintendo Switch, especially because we have other Borderlands titles on the Switch as well. We got Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, and I think Tales from the Borderlands. Now, obviously, the major elephant in the room with the $1 million question here is, will it even work? Is the Nintendo Switch capable enough to handle Borderlands 3, a game this big for the Switch? Now, I will say this right now, we have seen massive games like Dying Light and The Witcher 3 and Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga go on the Nintendo Switch, and I gotta say, those games that have been ported are pretty damn impressive, especially Dying Light and The Witcher 3. And surprisingly, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. I mean, seriously, all those games are pretty massive. And surprisingly, they all run very well on the Nintendo Switch. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Nightwing, what about the other previous Borderlands games? Will they even run on the Switch? Now, it may be different for some people, but personally, from my experience so far playing the previous Borderlands titles on the Nintendo Switch, I will say they did hold up pretty well for me, at least from my personal experience so far. I don't know how it is for everyone else when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, it can be either a hit or miss, but from personal experience playing the previous Borderlands games, I will say they did hold up pretty well from at least my time when I experienced playing the game and all that stuff. So, if it can run the previous Borderlands titles, then I have a little bit of confidence that Borderlands 3 will run, but I will say I also have my worries as well. Don't get me wrong. I think Borderlands 3 coming to the Switch is awesome, but I do also have some worries as well, considering the fact that it's starting to get, I believe, slightly harder now for these games getting ported onto the Switch, and it's going to be a bit harder for these developers to work with the developer toolkits that they have to get this stuff to run on the Nintendo Switch. Especially now because the Nintendo Switch is starting to get a little bit outdated, especially because we're in its seventh year, I believe, on the Nintendo Switch, and just porting some games, even making some games in general, is starting to get a little bit tough for some developers working on the Switch. And Borderlands 3 is definitely going to be a bit of a challenge for the Switch. And I'm not going to lie, I am also a little bit worried to see if this game will even run on the Nintendo Switch, especially now that a lot of people are just on edge due to the modern gaming standards that we all have today. If the game comes out buggy, broken, and just straight up unplayable, then nobody will buy it and everyone's going to review bomb it and no one's going to play it. But if the game gets ported successfully and it's actually playable and it actually runs well, then people are going to enjoy it and people are going to play it and people are going to buy it and have a good time with it. Now, I'm personally going to eventually get Borderlands 3 on the Switch. I'm going to try to get my hands on a physical copy because I believe there's an Ultimate Edition coming to the Switch. I haven't seen like a standard edition for this game on the Switch. I only saw like an Ultimate Edition from what I'm aware of. But regardless, if there's a physical edition of this game, I am going to try to get it as soon as possible when it comes out. Now, the gameplay you're seeing on screen, it's me playing Borderlands 3 on my PlayStation. Some of you may not know this about me, but I really enjoy Borderlands. Like, I enjoy the Borderlands franchise much more than I do the Call of Duty franchise. Like, even way back when, enjoy Borderlands much more than I enjoy Call of Duty, especially due to the current state that Call of Duty is in right now. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to bring up, especially with the massive problem that Call of Duty is going through right now, especially because Call of Duty is just in a massive rut and it's just doing such a piss poor job right now with the current state that Call of Duty is in. I gotta say, like Borderlands 3, I would recommend to anyone to give this game a try. If you enjoy first person shooter games like Call of Duty, I would recommend you give Borderlands 3 a try. I mean, Borderlands 3 is a fun first person shooter game. I would argue to say that it's one of the best first person shooter games of all time, but I know how we all feel about that when it comes to first person shooter games. I know it can be a different taste for people. I know everyone has their own preference when it comes to Call of Duty or Borderlands or any first person shooter games in general, but I gotta say, Borderlands 3, I would recommend to anyone within a heartbeat if they wanted to try out a first person shooter game. If someone just gets bored of Call of Duty and they ask me, "Hey, Nightwing, do you know any good first person shooter games that would be fun to play with friends?" I would immediately tell them, "Try out Borderlands. It's a fantastic co-op shooter game, especially because you get rewarded very well in this looter shooter game. The enemies that you kill, they actually drop decent loot. Especially you get fantastic ass loot when shit hits the fan very quickly. And when shit hits the fan, that's when things get dicey and you get rewarded very well. And the fact that this game got announced for the Nintendo Switch and it's coming in early October, that's very exciting. But also, it's very worrying as well, especially because people will end up wondering, will there be frame rate drops at certain points in the game? Will the game just run at 30 frames per second? Will the game even just be stable enough or ported well enough to even be playable? Like, these are the kind of worries that people are gonna have for this game, but unfortunately, all we can do is just play the waiting game here. Only time will tell at this point. So I would preach a little bit of patience here and just see where this goes. So we're just going to have to wait and see on this one, especially knowing the track record that Borderlands has on the Nintendo Switch. I am pretty confident that Borderlands 3 will come out well on the Nintendo Switch, but I am also pretty worried. But we'll just have to wait and see, unfortunately. I don't know if I'll do an update video and talk about if it runs well and if it comes out pretty solid for the Switch. I don't know if I'll do an update video on that or not, but we'll just see where this goes. So, with that being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. And until next time, I'm talking about Borderlands 3 finally coming to the Nintendo Switch, and I'll see you all later.